Today's tour is to Mount Hermon. There are a few roads that reach Mount Hermon. We took the most scenic one, Road 989. And once you pass the Druze village, Majd el-Shams, you reach the final stretch uphill all the way to the ski resort of Hermon Mountain. Mount Hermon is mentioned many times in the Bible, either as a border or a boundary, but also as a metaphor for beauty and prosperity, like here in Psalm 133. The road ends at a very large parking lot that serves the winter visitors during ski season. Mount Hermon is Israel's only ski resort. During the short season, it's open for skiers and snowboarders, but also many Israelis just come here to play around with the snow. So if you plan to ski, always check the website if there is enough snow. During ancient history, high mountains were always considered places of worship and sacrifice. In 1869, a British surveyor, Captain Charles Warren, reached the summit and found a stone-built temple with an inscription dedicated to the gods of the mountain. So we made it all the way up to Mount Hermon, the highest mountain in Israel. The elevation here is above 2,000 meters. That's around 6,000 feet. This mountain is covered with snow, usually from around November until maybe April. But in the summer, all the snow melts, and what you get is this kind of alpine terrain. So because Mount Hermon is the highest mountain in Israel, the Israeli army are up here with a lot of military. This is Israel's highest and furthest IDF military post. Mitzpeh Shlagim. That peak over there with a little tiny piece of snow, that is beyond the border. That's on the Syrian side. Hermon is where the borders of 3 countries meet: Israel, Syria, and Lebanon. And therefore the authorities only allow 2 hiking trails. So please make sure to stay on these trails at all times. Karst is a geological phenomena that is created from the melting of limestones by water. When we visit the Banyas River, and I always say that the Banyas water comes from Mount Hermon, this could be the source of the Banyas River from here, all the snow and the rain. And it seeps through this rock and comes out of the base of the mountain. Facing south towards the Golan Heights, we enjoyed excellent views and shared our old army stories. In 1967, during the Six-Day War, Israel landed men right here on this summit, and we have been here since. These military posts are essential to our security, and they are nicknamed the Eyes of the Nation. If you're a butterfly lover, then Mount Hermon would be your heaven. There are 97 species of butterflies recorded on the mountain. I was mostly impressed with the camouflage abilities. Look how its closed wings are disguised as plant leaves. So the hike down the mountain takes about an hour and a half. When you reach the parking lot, just make sure you get into the right vehicle. So we really hope that you enjoyed this tour of Mount Hermon. And if you did, please give us a big thumbs up. And please subscribe to the channel and write a comment and let us know where you'd like to go on our next tour of wonderful Israel.
Welcome to the Holy Land in this biblical site of Caesarea Philippi. Right here is the place where Peter's confession of who Christ is took place. It was a place that was totally forbidden by the Jews. Now, Caesarea Philippi, this is the name of the area. Now, Caesarea Philippi was an impressive Greco-Roman city near a huge spring that comes out of a cave and is one of the main sources of the Jordan River. So before the Romans were here, the Greeks were here, and then the Romans came. And there's this massive spring, one of the main tributaries of the Jordan River comes right out of the base of this mountain. And you can see we just got here, it's in October, and the water cycle is over. We were here in January a number of years ago, and it was just overflowing. We had to walk in water across the steps, and right now it's probably about 5 feet or 1.5 meters or so lower than that. So a massive amount of water just came out of this mountain, and it originally came out of the cave. Now, it's about 30 miles or 48 kilometers north of the Sea of Galilee, and it's at the foothills of Mount Hermon. Now, Mount Hermon is the highest mountain in Israel. It's also close to a high place that Jeroboam had set up. When the nation of Israel divided right after Solomon in about 926 or so BC, then Jeroboam had a golden calf set up at Tel Dan, which we'll be going to, and then at Bethel. And he forbade the people to go to Jerusalem to worship at the temple. He thought that they would defect. So he set up a golden calf here in Tel Dan. So that's just a hop, skip, and a jump away. So anyway, he had this worship of a false god just down the road a bit. And then in around 1000 AD, there was a massive earthquake, and it changed the structure of the ground. So now the spring comes out below the cave a little bit. But in its inception and during the time of Christ, it came right out of the cave. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the historical background and why it's so important to understand that in order to understand really what happened here. Once again, this is the place where Peter declared who Christ was, and Christ said, "Upon this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell will not prevail or be able to stand against it." So this place has been associated with intense false god worship and evil for many, many years. So you go way back to when Jeroboam set up the false god, the golden calf. It begins there. That's about 900 BC. And then the worship of Baal took place here during the whole period of the kings. Okay, so there was worship of the golden calf, then there began to be worship of Baal here as well. So what I'm going to do is show you the history of this site and all of the false god evil worship that took place here. Now, during the time of Christ, there were 5 main areas of worship to false gods that took place here. Herod the Great built a temple right at the mouth of the huge spring to honor Augustus Caesar. We had a courtyard area to the worship of Pan. There's a temple dedicated to the false god Zeus, an upper tomb temple of the dancing goats, and a lower tomb temple of the dancing goats. It was a worldwide gathering place of worship to numerous false gods. And it was literally considered the gate of the underworld, or Hades, by the known world at that time. And that's why when Christianity was born, it immediately suffered persecution. It suffered persecution by the Jews. It suffered persecution by the Romans. It was forbidden. Multitudes of Christians gave their lives for Christ. But guess what happened in 326 AD, in the mid-4th century? Well, the Roman Empire embraced Christianity. Why? Because if you're not willing to sacrifice anything, if you're not willing to be persecuted, well, then don't tell me about it. If you're not willing to pay any price for it, doesn't mean much.
When Jesus came into the coasts of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples, saying, "Whom do men say that I, the Son of Man, am?" And they said, Some say that thou art John the Baptist, some Elias, and others Jeremias, or one of the prophets. He saith unto them, But whom say ye that I am? And Simon Peter answered and said, Thou art the Christ, the Son of the living God. And Jesus answered and said unto him, Blessed art thou, Simon Bar-Jonah, for flesh and blood hath not revealed it unto thee, but my Father which is in heaven. And I say also unto thee, that thou art Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it.
For the Son of Man shall come in the glory of his Father with his angels, and then he shall reward every man according to his works. Verily I say unto you, there be some standing here which shall not taste of death till they see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom.
And after 6 days, Jesus taketh Peter, James, and John his brother, and bringeth them up into an high mountain apart.
And as he prayed, the fashion of his countenance was altered, and his raiment was white and glistering. And behold, there talked with him 2 men, which were Moses and Elias, who appeared in glory, and spake of his decease, which he should accomplish at Jerusalem. But Peter and they that were with him were heavy with sleep, and when they were awake, they saw his glory, and the 2 men that stood with him. There came a cloud, and overshadowed them, and they feared as they entered into the cloud. And there came a voice out of the cloud, saying, This is my beloved Son, hear him.
And when the disciples heard it, they fell on their face, and were sore afraid. And Jesus came and touched them, and said, Arise, and be not afraid. And when they had lifted up their eyes, they saw no man, save Jesus only.
Now this I say, brethren, that flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom of God, neither doth corruption inherit incorruption. Behold, I show you a mystery. We shall not all sleep, but we shall all be changed. In a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trump. For the trumpet shall sound, and the dead shall be raised incorruptible, and we shall be changed.
Thank you.